when you want. So if there's something I'm doing that you don't understand, just tell me, oh, Peter, stop, please. I can't understand this. What do you mean with this thing here? Um, so that way, it's much more easier for you to be able to take something genuinely useful out of this conversation. And it's in two parts. So the first part is just giving you all the theoretical insights into what we're going to be doing, explaining terminologies and stuff like that. And then the second part is when we are going to be diving into code and writing some codes. So I hope all of you are good. So if you can hear me clearly, just say hi in the chat or just shout out hi, and I just know that I'm not talking to myself. Okay, great, 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 great. So I love the energy. That's really
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to get started pretty soon. I'm just trying to give some people a little bit of opportunity to come on in again before we get started. So I have a slide I'm going to run through. So if there's any terminology or anything I'm explaining and you find it difficult to understand, just drop me a message in the chat or just unmute yourself and then say, hey, Peter, can you explain this a little bit better for me? So, because this is beginner tailored. So, I'm not sure what the experience of everyone here is, but I will try as much as possible to break it down in a way that is very simple and easy. And then you also can take it further and be able to create something that you can share with me, okay, or with the community by yourself. All right, so let me try and see if I can share my screen. Okay, good. Um, all right, so I'll be coming to, when I'm sharing my screen, most of the time it's difficult to be able to see uh, the platform itself, but it's fine. I will try to uh, I'll just try to come over there and check for any messages, or you can just like unmute yourself and just ask a question. If there is something I explained that is not clear, just quickly unmute yourself and say, Peter, shout out to me, and then I'll stop and then I'll go over it. But after the presentation, there will be a session to ask questions. So if you don't feel like interrupting me, you can just note your questions down, and when I'm done, I could just like go over all of the questions quickly before we then go back to session 2. So in this section is introduction to HTML and CSS. I know it's something that's been flying around a lot. A lot of people have heard about it. That's how we build websites. So HTML is actually for building the structure of your web page, and CSS is how we actually put uh, beautification, like to make it look good. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. If you're not here, this session wouldn't hold at all. So about me, my name is Peter Ayeni. So I really like helping people to get started in tech and also in social entrepreneurship. I founded some social entrepreneurship in the past. I've helped other social entrepreneurs to be able to launch their ideas. I've also helped people get started in tech. I've worked with Audacity as a technical mentor that I've helped a lot of students across Europe and Africa to help them to finish their projects, prepare for interviews, land a job in the tech industry. And so why I do this is because I started as a self-taught software engineer, and straight out of high school, very naive. I don't really know what I was doing. So it took me a long time to be able to like understand the rope. And there wasn't a lot of like mentoring as it was. I remember then I would try to like get mentors and they're like, oh, sorry, you're busy and stuff like that. So it was like years of struggling online tutorials, YouTube, expensive courses at some point, and for me to get to where I am today. So I'm not saying I'm like an expert and pro, but at least I'm doing pretty well. But also I don't want other people to struggle so much, like because you can quickly get it and then you could move even faster. So first I'm going to talk about some definitions. I would just want to, so more of the definitions comes from Wikipedia anyway, so it's not something I made up. So what is HTML? So HTML is it's called the hypertext markup language. So is the first markup language, like the standard document that was designed for browsers to talk to each other, not really network, like for computers to interpret information on the web page. So hypertext markup language is a very close to English language. You just have some kind of markup, means some like kind of syntax that defined how information should be represented. So that is what HTML is. And also we have CSS. So CSS is called cascading style sheets. So it's a style sheet language. What it does is like it takes your HTML language and then markup, and then it's able to add some style to them. So the way it works is, think about it like when you have like an InDesign, and then you do all of your layouts, and then you now go to the colors and the styles to start giving it some kind of font, sizes, colors, and stuff like that. And that's exactly what HTML and CSS are doing behind the scene. HTML give you the layout, and then CSS, you can turn that layout into whichever way you want it to be. So your imagination is just your limitation at that moment. So, and another thing we are going to talk about is what we call semantic HTML. So the concept of semantic HTML is to be able to write an HTML, hypertext markup language, that is self-descriptive. So, the web today is being used by a variety of people. So, and then we have to be very inclusive in the way we build web applications. So to be able to add this accessibility and inclusiveness into web pages that we build, using this semantic HTML, make it easy for screen readers, for maybe Google crawler, for markup, maybe translators that want to translate your HTML website to other languages, to be able to understand them easily and clear. So all these semantic HTML are like standards that have been built, and then I'm going to explain some of this. We're going to be using them, some of them, but I want to make sure that you are aware of these things, so that when you start exploring in the wild, you have it at the back of your mind. So some of these semantic HTML elements, we have some of their examples here. So we have what we call article, aside, details. We have feed, caption, figure, footer, header, main, mark, nav for navigation, section, summary, time. So if you look at all of this markup, it's easy to understand. Like when you see article, you know what that means, that this is representing an article. When you see an aside, you know that this is a side a side section on your website. When you see a figure, you know this is trying to describe an image. When you see a footer, so this kind of thing is very translatable, and the machines and the screen readers can easily understand the structure of your web application easily, and then this information can be passed from machines to machines, and they still know what they mean. So if we take this information on the right hand side and put on the left hand side, and let's say we are trying to describe a web page, for instance. So an header would be the header part, a header section where we have the logo and the branding, and then we have the navigations where you can use to have like home, about, contact us, all of this navigation stuff can be there. And then we have the aside, which is the left bar, that we can have maybe other information. Sometimes we can have like a chart there. Some websites we have like adverts, or some website we have some more information, or some even links about the website, especially on blog sites. And then we have the main. This main talks about the main content of the website. And then we have sections. Section describe each section of information of your website. And then we have the footer. that describes the footer section where we have the copyright information, maybe more links and some other information. So as all of these things have been described, when Google crawl your page, they understand where to look for certain kind of information. And that's what semantic HTML elements means. So we are going to dive into some of these a little bit further, and I'll send you share some links to where you can even read even further about them. So you don't need to cram all of these things into your head. You can just like look them up when you want to code. So we do that all the time. You always look things up. That's why the internet and Google is there. So the next thing we're going to talk about is CSS selectors. So there are several CSS selectors. So CSS selectors. So right now, just have it at the back of your mind, even if you don't understand. By the time we get to the code properly, you see how all of these things work together. So just trust me and trust the process, okay? Yep. So CSS selectors are the way we are able to select HTML elements or HTML tag on the page and apply styles to them. So that is how they work. So there are three major ones we have today here. We have four, but we're going to be using at least three of them in this tutorial today. But I'm going to explain how they work for you. So the first one here is we have this dot notation. So anytime we have this kind of dot something, is we are selecting a class. We call it a class. So dot intro, for instance, means that select all the elements with the class intro. So I'll show you how this works in code, and you're going to see them in practically. But just have it at the point of your mind that a class can be attached to any element multiple times in an HTML page. So, and then we have an ID. So ID select the element with the ID of first name. So ID, we can only have one ID on the page. So if I have an ID called first name on an HTML page, I would not be able to have another ID first name again because they're going to be collision. So an ID is a unique name to represent this particular thing on the web page. So, and on that web page, you can only have one ID at a time. So if I have first name as an ID, then I can have last name or any other ones. So when you see the asterisk is used to select all elements. So if I want to style all the elements on an HTML page, or I want like every element on this HTML page to have a margin of 10, then I can use this star to select to do that. So, and then we have element selector itself. So there are different kinds of elements that we have. We have div, we have p elements, also like all of these article aside details, all of these ones also are called elements because the element itself are the tag that we use to describe an HTML element itself. So you see an example of this very soon. And then you can see more on selectors at this URL. Immediately after this, I'm definitely going to share this with everyone so that you can have it and you can check it out. So, and also there are other things we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about styling an HTML page. So how can we, after we describe our HTML page using semantic HTML and also that, how can we style them? There are three different types of styling pattern that we have. So the first is add style to the page. We can have a style with the HTML page living side by side each other. I'm going to show an example of this. And then we can have an inline styling also where you have your style directly in your HTML page. So the last one is external style, which is the most recommended and the most scalable way of styling your HTML, and which is the one we're going to use today. But I'll show an example of these two also. And also in our HTML wiki web page, we can have custom fonts. So I start from the system fonts that we have on your computer. We can have custom font, and Google provides a lot of custom fonts hosted for free that we can use, and they also have some paid fonts that we can buy and embed on our website. So I'm going to show you today how to use the custom fonts on your website. And also we're going to be using icons. So how do we use all the amazing, beautiful icons we designed, and we want to use them on our website. We're going to be using Font Awesome, but there are other awesome icons platform you can use. You can even design your own icons in SVG and use them on your website directly. And also the IDE we are going to be using today is called Visual Studio Code. And if you don't have it already, you can download it now. Just Google Visual Studio Code or VS Code. It's a very powerful IDE. It helps you to be able to write code. You don't have to remember everything. It gives you hints and insights and intelligence and stuff like that. So, and it's really, really great. So today, this is what we're going to be building on the right-hand side, this card. I already have a hosted version of it here. If you like to check it out, I can share it. So you can check out what we're going to be building. So, and yeah, so I think that's that. So my little motivation is that even after this, you still feel unsure, unclear, don't worry, you can do it. You understand? So don't be afraid of it. Sometimes all of us feel unsure all the time. Learning something new can be a little bit tricky, like seeing all of those codes and everything, like how they do it. So it's about building blocks. So you start from blank screen, and before you know it, you have a lot of things on your page, and you'll be surprised that, oh, am I the one that do all of these things? And that is exactly how it is, and you're going to see when we get started very soon. So another thing I want to say is that I like to say this quote every time because it's what it is. I'm having a session next week, Saturday, about is an AMA question about breaking into tech. And one of the things I said in the description of that session is that this is the best decade to actually start to code, because even coding, either design or product in any aspect, because there are a lot of resources. People have done so many things for us. We just need to build them on top of those things. And a lot of tech giants are investing a lot of money and resources into tools, into events, meetups that you can learn, mentoring like this that is free, and it's really, really amazing. So let's take advantage of that. So this is me, and yeah, and I currently work in London with a startup, with a company there. So and been building front end solutions for a long time now, and also I do write technical stuff. So I can share my Substack or Medium. You can give me a follow there. So if you have any questions now, let's quickly jump into it before we start code. So if you have questions on the first session, uh, can we ask now? Do you have any question on the first session? Okay, yeah. So if you're just joining in, I will definitely share the recording after this. So Sherman was asking about the difference between class and ID. So what I said about class is that a class can be used multiple times on the page. And always remember that an ID that is defined can only be used once on the page. So if you create a web page, let's say index.html, for instance, so on that index.html, if you define an ID of first name, you can't use that ID of first name anywhere else in that page. So, but if you define the class, you can use that class in multiple places. I'm going to show you an example soon. Any other questions aside from this? Yeah, so ID is used to target one thing on the page only. Yes, so there is non-semantic HTML, definitely. So what I will describe as non-semantic HTML is when you describe your page without, in places where you should use the semantic attribute or tags, and then you're just using just div. Like for instance, every element that we have on the semantic HTML, we can actually use just div for them. You know, people just use like div everywhere. Like this is a div. So if you look at div is like a placeholder, but it doesn't really represent anything. When a screen reader is looking at a div, they're not really sure what that div represents. So like in the place of filter, and so if you use footer, like you are creating a footer, then you use footer to describe that element, the the reader knows, oh, this is a footer here. So I'll show an example very soon when we get started. So all right, so don't worry, I'll show a lot of examples on these things so that we can get started. What I want to do is I want to share the whole of my screen so it's much more easier for us to see everything I'm doing. So just give me a second. Okay, so okay, good. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Let me take this out. Good. So I'm just gonna take this out for me to be able to see everything we are doing more clearly. All right. Okay. Okay, so if I share the entire screen, yeah, so I'm going to share my entire window. Entire screen. Okay, good. So when I share my entire screen, I'm going to try and yeah, my entire screen is now being shared. I think that is good. So I will minimize. So at this time, when I start coding, please, if you have any question, just omit yourself and just shout out at me. I think that will be the best way because I won't be able to see the chat. So if you have any question at any point in time, just shout out at me. I'm going to put it in the chat so everyone can see that. Okay, so not the notes. We have a shot here. Okay. Samantha, do you have any question? Okay, I see. Good. Just for the high. If you have any question, so this way it's better because I will have to minimize this page so we don't have this distraction on the screen like we do now. Okay, we're getting started. Good. Yeah, so this is my work process actually. How do what we are building today? How do I start if I have like a new project I need to build HTML and CSS? So most of the time I start working from the terminal. So I will just go to my desktop. So what I'm doing on the terminal here, don't be scared of the terminal if you don't understand. You can also do it on the desktop also. So I could just like create a new folder here and call it AD. Okay, I should be here. ADPList mentor card. So that's it. So the same thing here. So if I look at my desktop now, I can see it here, and I can just CD into it, and then I will open this file in my VS Code. So VS Code just the way I configure VS Code to be able to open that file. So and if you find it difficult to do this code.open, don't worry, you could still do it the same way. You could just, I will close this back now. So I'll just go to my desktop and open VS Code, and then I'll just open a new folder. So I'll just say open. So if I click on open and then just go to my desktop and then ADPList mentor card and open. So it's the same thing you can do with your GUI, the same operation also you can do with the CLI or the terminal. So it's the same thing. So I think I should close some of this thing that could drag us back. Okay, I need to close all of this just for. Okay, so okay, good. So now we have this folder created. So what I want to do first, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see my screen more clearly. So I'm going to create a folder here called assets. So in this asset folder, that is where all of our images and any other thing we need is going to be. And then also I'm going to create another folder called CSS. So that's where all of our CSS files are going to be at. And also I will create a file called index.html. So index.html, that is the place where we're going to have our HTML page. So for this asset, I've already downloaded an image we are going to use. So I'll just get this image and put it in the asset folder so that can be done. So we're going to be using this image I got from on Splash. Okay, this is the screenshot of this one I did. So let me get this out. So I think the image should be somewhere. Let me check my download. History. Okay, yeah, I think I have it in the. Yeah, I have it here because I already. You can see I created a version not quite long, so I'll just delete this. This is the completed one I did earlier. I pushed for everyone to see. So this is the image we're going to be using for this demonstration, and then I can close this. And yeah, so we're going to start from the index.html page and describe our HTML page. But before we do that, the first thing we need to do is I came from a design background, so I believe in design first approach. So because when you design first, you are able to have the understanding of everything that you need for the work to be done. So I'll just use Draw. It's a free prototyping tool, and you can use it for different things. So to do a simple prototype of what we are actually building. So we have our card, this way that we are building. So the card have an image, a giant image that fill the whole box. And then at the top here, we have a little thing here, and then we have an icon over here, an heart icon. So this is just like doing a low fidelity of what we need. And here we have the name of the person, we have their title, I think, and then we have their job descriptions, and then we have another thing here. So exactly that is the way it is what we are going to build. So this is like the low fidelity version of it. And then from here, we can actually build like a high fidelity version just to have an idea of what we're going to build. So I could take this, I'll just try to copy this now. So I can then translate this. So here we have an icon here really, and then we have here available sub. So that's what we have here. And then we have a heart icon here. Yeah, good. So, and also we have here the name of that person. So we can say John, the name we always talked about. And then we have the company of that person, Google. So this is a little bit bigger. So we can have this big, and then we have this here. And then I think if I look at this, yeah, just for reference, yeah, good. So we have that title, UX designer, for instance. And then we have things that they are skill sets of what they do. So we have skill, career advice. Okay. And also I think there are some icons that we have here, and also another icon here. Yeah, so that's good. If we look at the preview again, yeah, I think that's it. And then we have our country flag on the side here. So that's creating our low fidelity. So this just gives us an idea of what we are creating. So if we are going to apply semantic principle here, so what I would say is we can divide this up and say, okay, at the top here, this is the header. You can say card header here, and also at the bottom here we can say we have card footer. So, and this itself, this is the main card. So that's the card itself. So in the card header and card, we have different content here. So, and what HTML elements can we use to represent some of this thing that we have here? So for the name, we can actually use the P tag. So the P tag stands for the paragraph tag. So you can have any content in here. So that is the P tag. So you can use the P tag to describe any of the text content here. And other thing that we have also, we have what we call the H1 tag. So H1 to H6 are all header tag. So we're going to go through some of these elements that we are going to use very soon. So, and also we still have div sometimes. So there are some things that you can actually explain with semantic HTML, because they're just like you're using them to group things together. Like for instance, at some point, we might want to group these because they are one whole, and then we want to group these as an whole also. So there is no semantic something, and we don't need any semantic relevancy for any of those things. Then we can just use div, use div to do that. So we can move this up, and then we can say, okay, all these are represented by div. So that's just the idea of how you can actually break down an element or a design. Let's say right now we've already have a design. So, but if you are coming up with an idea by yourself, just to give you a clearer picture of what you're building, so you can I do this process all of the time, and then I can take this process and do my high fidelity design in Figma, and then I can then convert those Figma design into the real life application I want to build. So let's get started now. Is there any question at this point before I dive into the code itself properly? Okay, Danish is okay. Yeah, no worries at all. I'm going to make a recording available so that you could, uh, yeah, definitely. I will share with you. It's all right. I would note that. Thank you. Yeah. So this is really cool now. So that's the process in which I try to break down all of these things so that we can have a clearer picture of how all of these design elements, each and every one of them, is going to translate into code. So let's go to the code now. Let's go to the code. So one of the important thing of using HTML, an IDE like VS Code, is that it's really, really good, and it just gives us like all of the help we need internally to start to code. You don't need to because there's so many HTML tags, so many CSS tags, so we don't want to like keep all of those things in our head. No, you don't want to do that. Some of the time you rely on your IDE to give you help. So even this day, there is a an AI that helps you with code. They call it Copilot. Just give you code suggestion, and then the most important thing is that you know where you are going to, and then the ID and the resources can help you to get there. And how do you know where you are going to? By having a good design of the results. You know, your designers have designed it and then they present it to you, and then we want to bring this to life. So you already know where you're going to. The question is, how do I get there? So, and that is what we are going to be answering now. So the first thing I would do is I will do this HTML boilerplate. So this is a boilerplate that we use all the time in HTML. So it's not something to cram. So it's just like this doc type is telling us that I'll zoom in a little bit also to so that we can be a little bit bigger. Even if you scroll over your stuff, it will give you some kind of explanation about what this thing is. You can see, and to just give you the and link to an MDN reference. MDN is Mozilla Developer Network, where they have high documentation of all HTML, CSS, JavaScript stuff. So what we want to do right now is with all of this thing that we put here, the way I generate this is simple. You just need to put an exclamation mark and then enter, and then this will be generated for you. The most important thing we need here is the title. I could see that uh, mentor card. So that is the title of what we're doing. And then this is the head section. So everything in the head sections are what uh, search engines use to describe your page and to be able to get a lot of information about your page. Even the browser that is going to load your page also use the head section. And then the body section is where all the contents of your website that you're building are going to live. So everything are going to live there. So now let's go ahead and describe our HTML page. So that's what we are going to be doing right now. So the first thing we want to do is we want to have a main. So the main here is what is going to end is like the main thing for our HTML. So is the whole of the HTML body that we have. So that's why we put this in the main. And then our card is going to live inside this main. So there is no way to describe a card semantically, but we can use something called section to actually describe a card on its own. That okay, we can say this card is going to be a section. You understand? So so in this card section, we have to look at okay, what are the other things that we need in the card section? So the first thing that we need in the card section is the card footer and then the uh, card footer and the card header. So what we're going to do is we're going to say header, and then we're going to say footer. So as simple as that, we now have our card header, and then we have our card filter. So if we open this on the page right now, we're not going to see anything at all because we still need to put some content into this place. So now, to put the content into it, we have we can create a div that is going to house our first content that we have. Which is available ASAP. So before we move forward, there is something I need to explain, especially on using icon, because icon is very, very important to this project. So we are going to be using what we call Font Awesome. Font Awesome provides us with free icons that we can actually use. So I will say Font Awesome. So they have different versions. We're going to be using the version 4 of Font Awesome, and then I'm going to. So if we go to the Font Awesome website easily, so it's very easy to go to fontawesome.com. So yeah, let's try that out. So let's go to the icons, and we need to go to version 4. Okay, so let me see the plans. We're not paying for this. Okay, I think Font Awesome. So let's check the CDN. That's what we want to copy. I already have it here. I could just copy it out of what I have, but I just want to show you so that it's easier for you to see how these things can be incorporated into your web page. So this is Font Awesome version 4. And yeah, so accessibility, and so to get started, we just click on this. No, I don't need this. No, thanks. I'll just stick with fonts 4. So yeah, good. Yeah, so sometimes they tell you that, okay, Font Awesome CDN, send my font. So you can just add your email address here, and then it's going to give you the Font Awesome stuff. But I think it's going to be okay. I think we have. So this is how to use it and stuff, and all of that. So because I already have this, I don't want you to take you through all of this stuff. So I'll just copy it from here. I think is the best use of our time. So this is a Font Awesome. I'll just copy that, and then I will add it to the top of our page. And using Font Awesome is quite easy, very easy to use. So you just need to use the I tag, which means icon, and then you can close that, and then we can add a class of FA, which means Font Awesome, and then you can do FA bold. So because we want to use something like a lightning bolt icon. So, and then after that, what we're going to do is add another icon. So this time around, we're adding an icon called FA, and then it's going to be FA add outline. So FA add outline means we want an icon that's an outline of an icon. So what I'm going to do now is in your VS Code, you can actually preview what you're doing. So you can do open live server here. Just right click inside index.html, open live server, and then it's going to open a live server on the web page that we can preview what we are doing. So I'm just going to have this on the right here, and then have this here. So it's much more easier to see what we are doing at the same time. So right now you can see this is the thing we have. So that's how HTML is. HTML just describe what we need to see on the page, and it doesn't do anything more than that. So now we can continue doing what we're doing. So we already described our header section, and that's all what our header section has. It has a div there, we have this icon, and then we have this available, a sub, and then we have the art icon. So the next part of our page is actually the footer place. So in the footer, we're going to, that's where we have more content in. So we can have a div. So div is an element also. So in this div, we're going to have two things. So we're going to have a p tag that is going to have the name of the mentor. So we can have this, we can call this John. Or we could just do the same thing I did. Akim. So we can have that. And then we can have another p tag that describes where he works, Google. And then if I save these, immediately you can see we have Akim Ahmad, we have he works at Google. So the next thing we want to have is the expertise, is this job title. So the job title can be described using a span. So a span, like a div, is the same thing. So a span is like a wrapper, the same way a div is like a wrapper. So we can use a span to actually describe this particular one. So we give it an icon, and the icon for this is going to be FA of a class, FA, and FA briefcase. That is briefcase. So you see here now we have the briefcase here. And then after that, we are going to have the title of user experience designer. So you can see that now we have the user experience designer. And then the next one, yep, so we can actually put this span in the div just to separate it from the top one when we are styling them. Yeah, so we have this in the div, and then we have this in the div, and then we're going to have the second span also for the expertise. So we have the span here. We're just going to change this to comment. That is the icon they use. That's what the user talks about. Comment, and then their expertise is like on help you on job search. Skill. Advice. And then we can stop. So all of this has been changed. So right now we have everything we need for it. So we have everything we need. So this is our card here. And then this is the main. So we can now do this. So we can do is we can have our image. So how do we use image? Is just use the image tag and the source. And then we can get it from the assets, mentors image. And also when you use an image, so it's telling me to provide an alt text, very important. So alt text just means that when the image is not showing up, we have something that shows up. So I will demonstrate this for us very soon. So we can say mentor image. So we can save this right now, and then we have that giant image here. See, it's really, really big. So we are going to, that is where you can see HTML doesn't have an idea of how these things should be formatted to look interesting and beautiful. It doesn't know. So the only thing HTML does for us is to give us the structure of every of the content that we need, and then we can use CSS to make it look better. So for instance, if there's an error with the image, for instance, and it's not showing, you can see the ultimate image is showing here, showing mentor image. So that is very, very important. Sometimes you can have like an image being deleted on the web page, but for good experience, the person can know that, okay, there's a mentor image that's supposed to be here. So let's reverse that back, and then I'm going to save this. So another thing that we actually, I want to show is what we call CSS reset. So and CSS reset is very, very important sometimes when you're coding. So CSS reset just give us, like, it removes all of the browser defaults that our web page has. So you don't need to cram this. There is a lot of them that is being provided. I will share this immediately after this, or you can, when you are watching this, I will share the resources on the link that you can check it out. So I will copy the CSS resets, and then I'll go to our page where we have our CSS file, and I'll create a new file called reset.css. And then I'll just paste all of this inside. So, and this is well commented out. So what CSS reset does is it removes all of the browser default from our website, so that we can actually implement them intentionally by ourselves. So, and then we're going to create our own file, CSS, I'll call it style.css. So this is our own style itself. So how do we've talked about how do we add CSS to our page, and that's what we are going to be showing now. There are different ways in which we can actually add CSS to a page. We've talked about number one of having like style, and say we have like a color, and we can have the color be red. Yeah, and you can see a sub. So right now the color is automatically red. So this is what we call inline styling. So you are styling your HTML inline. And another way we can style our CSS is to just have a style at the top here, and then we can add all of our styles. So I can say, or I can have a selection. Remember we talked about selection before. So let's say I select all the P tag, P elements, and I said font or size to be extra large. And then I save. So you can see now all of the P tag in our page, all the fonts have become extra large. So that is what we call inline style, and then style at the top of the page. So we're not going to be using any of these two because they are very cumbersome and they can make our code unreadable. So that is the reason why we won't be using this. So we are going to be using what we call external CSS. So, and the external CSS is the CSS that we have here, style.css, and then we are going to be connecting it to our HTML. And how do we do that? So the way to connect your external CSS is still the same way we do with this. So we are going to have what we call link, and say we have rel, and say it's going to be style sheet, and then we have our href that will link to where we have our CSS. The first one will be our CSS reset that we want to have here. And then the second one is going to be link to rel style sheet. in href. Now we go to our file style and then style of CSS. So that is our style. So this is the way we will be styling. So you can see right now our reset has been applied. Everything is looking the way we want them to look. Everything is looking, even the image is looking more smaller on the page. Before, the image was really, really blown apart. We can't even see it. But now we can actually see something. And that is the work of our CSS reset kicking in. So now our style.css, we can start to do something to just make what we have on this page a little bit manageable, or to just test that our style.css is working. So I'll just do body. So body means I'm selecting the body section. You can see this is the body here. The body is everything on that page. So I'm selecting that. So I'm saying that color to be, let's say this brown. So let's see. Yay! So our CSS style is working correctly. So let's get started adding CSS to our page. So now we have this section, we have this main. So let's start from there. Our main, let's start our main and see how that happens. We're going to start our main. So we can select the main selector, main, we can select it. So what we want to do, we want our mains to take the available width of our screen. So we say width to be 100%. What is happening here is that we said the main, we want you to take all of the available width on the screen. And also we want you to take, for the height, we want you to take the view available height, VH, which means the viewport height. You can see. So that is what's going to happen. So it's going to take the available height. So, and also we are going to make our display, it's going to be flex. So our display is going to be flex. And then we're going to justify our content. Justify content to be center. I'm going to explain all this very soon and align items to be center. So what we are doing now is this. So everything is now at the center, but the image, you can see our image is well centered now, but the image is covering everything. So we're going to fix them very soon. So but when I scroll past, then everything come this way. So yeah, so to see that everything we are doing here is working, so what I'm going to do is, let's say we set color here to be aquamarine. Yeah, so this is fine. So everything in that main has that color. So that's good. So now that we have styled our main, we are going to style our section, which is going to be card. But I want us to give it a class, so it's easier for us to remember that this is our card, really. So the section here is actually our card. So we're going to style it as our card. So how do we select a class? We do dot card. So that is the class selection. So if we have class like this, to select it using CSS, you add dot to it. So we have dot card, and that is going to select our card. So what we want to do now is set the height and width of our card to be 350 pixel. And also the height, let's make the height 500 pixel. So I'm going to make the position relative. So we are making the position relative so that we can make all the content in this card an absolute positioning, so that we can position them correctly inside relative to the card itself. And then we can do what we call border radius to be 16 pixel. That is a curve border that we have. And then if we do this now, we can see our card is properly centered because now it has something. You can see we are already centered and we have our image properly done. And then we need to move all of this content on the top of our image. So how do we do this now? So we need to style our image also. To style an image, we can just select an image because image is just like a tag also. So what we want is we want our image to take 100% width of our card, right? 100%. So the image is taking 100% available width of this card. And then the height also we take 100% of the height that is available. So then what we want to do, we want object fit for our image to be covered. So everything in the image is shown. And then also we want object position to be center for the image. And also we could just give our image a border radius because we have that, then our image have this border radius now. So don't worry, if you have any questions, I'm going to be answering that very soon. So good, so we have all of this thing now. So I think the best thing we need to do before moving forward, if we go to the HTML itself, we have this header in the card, and then we have this footer, which is good, but we can have an element that actually puts all of them together. So I think with the image also. So I can just like select all of this, and then I'll just make a div out of it, and then save this back. And then I will give this a class and call it card content. So we call this card content, and then we can save this. So we go to our class now, we can go to card content. So then we can take the position of this to be absolute. And then you can say top 0. And then we can give it a width so that it takes the width of the parent is 100% of 365. And then it takes the height of the parent, which is 100% of 500. Okay, so yeah, so I think we should take the image out of the content, very important. Yeah, so we need to take the image out of the content. So that way we can have the content separately, and then we can have the image and the section card be on the same page. So yeah, that is that. So now we have our header, and we have the header content, and we have all of this. So before we go ahead, the next thing I want to show us is actually how to add a custom font. So adding a custom font is very, very important because if we Google font, so Google font is the way we actually add custom font to our project. So right now I'm just going to go a little bit faster because of almost like the same thing we are doing. So just basically repeating ourselves. But creating a custom font is very, very important. And this is the way we do it. So you can come to Google, and there are tons of fonts we can actually select from. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to be using a font called Roboto. I know if you're a designer, you know this very well. It's very popular on the web and really amazing. And so I'm just going to be selecting all this: thin, light, regular, medium, and bold. So, and then I will copy the link import. There are different types of ways to import fonts. You can use the art import or use the link import, because we are using CSS in our HTML. So link import is very efficient for this. So just the same way we add the icon, we can add the uh, fonts, custom fonts at the top of it. And then what we need to do is go to our CSS and just go to the body at the top, body, and then we say font family. So we can say area, Helvetica, and stuff, but at the front here we just choose Roboto because that is what we want. And if maybe the person is not online or this Roboto is not available for some reason, we are going to default back to this. And that's the way we add font to our website. And then if you go to our page right now, you'll see that our font will have changed automatically. Now we have a new font that we are using. So another thing we can do, because everything is white on the page, so we can just say we want every color on the body, or maybe not on the body, because we can have other things on the body, on the card itself. Let's say all the color of every content on the card should be white. And you can see that. So immediately everything are now white. So what the next thing for us to do is to position all of this content where they need to be. So that's what we are going to do right about now. So the first thing we want to position is actually the header. So we can position the header. So, and let's do that. So to position the header, we are going to go to our style and then select header. So we have the header, and then so what we want to do is, let's say, margin top for the header. So the margin top to be 25 pixel, and then we can say padding left. So padding left is just like the distance from the left hand side of it. So move this to the, so 250. I said so that is too much. We make it 150, and that's great. So the next thing we have is the footer. Let's position the footer also. So we can position the footer by selecting the footer. And then we have the position, so the absolute. We have bottom 0. So it takes it, we make the position absolute to the card and then said, okay, take it to the bottom of it. So that's why we say bottom 0. And then from there, we can say, okay, we want margin bottom, some distance between the content and the card itself to be 25 pixel. I was doing margin top, that should be margin bottom. Yeah, and then we need something on the left-hand side. So we can do margin left also. Margin left to be, let's say 25 pixel also. And then so we have that done, and which is great. So everything is now aligned the way they need to be. So the next thing we need to do is to be able to make the fonts for each of these contents look a little bit nicer. So, and the way to do that is very simple. We can actually give, we have the p tag in the div here. So what I could do is, let's give it this paragraph a class of name, and then let's give this a class of workplace. And then I could give this a class expertise. And then we can give this a class okay. We can just, because the expertise are the same, so I will just give this class of expertise and move it to the top div. So everything we apply here applies to both of them. So because they are almost like the same thing. Good. So we can target the name, workspace, and expertise now. So the first thing we want to target is the name. We just target our class name. And then we can say font size to be 700. Not font size. Font size to be 25 pixel. Okay. And then font weight to be 700. Yeah, that's what we want. And then for workplace, we want to say font weight to be 300, so that will be lighter, which is good. And also because you can then expertise, so font weight to be 300. That, and then we want to do margin top, so we can have some breathing space between workspace and the name. So we can say margin top to be 15 pixel, and that's it. And now we have the differentiations between them, and we have all of those differentiation between both of them. So the next thing we want to do is what we have at the top, the availability ASAP thing. So what I want to do is a simple refactor with our availability ASAP. So what I want to do is make it a span. So if I make this a span, I'll just take these out. So yeah, like that. So why I did this is because I just want everything to be inline, and span provide us the ability to make things inline. But then yeah, so what we want to do, because we have the span here, so we can target the availability ASAP and the icon and style them differently. So what I'm going to do is add a class to this span and call it availability. And then I can just come over here and style availability. So we can say background color of white. So you see that now, and then we can have color of black, so that every item in it can be that color. And then we can have border radius of 50 pixel, so that should be rounded. And then we can have internal padding to be 10 pixel to give us some space, like that. So and then we have that, and then so because availability is there, we can give it margin right of 10 pixels. So it gives us the space between availability ASAP and the icon. And before you know it, you see everything is coming really, really nice. And then we can reduce that to 5 pixels to make it a little bit cleaner. So, and the interesting thing is we can actually also style the icon, like the art icon, for instance. So I can add additional style here. You can see here we have two styles. So I can add styles called heart. So I can style these independently. So that means in the selection, you can have multiple class targeting one particular element. You see how that works now. So I can take this heart. So that would be dot heart. And then I'll just name it, say, okay, font size, because I want it to be a little bit bigger. Extra large, let's see. That's too big. I'll say X large. That's better. So, and that's all we have it. And that's it. We have our card 100% done with all of this simple HTML and using custom fonts, custom icons, and all of the different selection that we have seen. So another thing we could do with I explained about ID is that we can say, okay, this main is ID of, let's say, container. So we can come here and like, okay, we don't want to use target main anymore. Let's take all this main. Let me take it out. You know, now the main stuff is gone. Our stuff is not centered anymore. So we can then use the ID of container and then this, and then you can see everything works back. So that is the way ID works. So, and now that we have an ID of container, I can go here and say ID container. Even though it works, but if you check, you can see that it works, but it's breaking the code. And even even if we check our inspector, so inspect is how you check for what you're doing, and then you can quickly show that and go to the console. I think we should have some kind of error. Yeah, I think there should be some kind of element error there. So, but one thing about HTML is that it's very, very forgiving sometimes, but you can see that we are seeing an unusual stuff here because it's trying to center everything we put there, is applying the same style twice to other things. So, but we don't want to do ID container twice. So you want to choose a different ID. You want your ID to be unique on the page. Each ID should be unique. So that's it. I'll just do a quick recap and then we can start to answer some of the questions that you have. So in the beginning, we quickly have a low fidelity prototype of what we want to build. So with designers, we talked about semantic HTML and how you break down your HTML products and how you bring them together. So we do all of this. We have developing a card. We segment it into the card header and the card footer, and we have the card content itself. So when we describe different HTML elements we are going to use, we have the footer, we have the header, we have the P elements that we are using here, we have span that we use to group things together, we have icons and stuff like that, and that's great. So, and then we go from here to creating the folder called ADPList mentor card. And in that folder, we create an asset. We add the asset to it, which is an image. And after adding an image, we also create a CSS folder where we have the reset folder, reset files. What I said about reset is that it's reset and remove all of the browser defaults that normally comes with our browser so that we can intentionally style our page with confidence. And then we add our own style to target each of the elements. We use heavily element selector, footer, we use class selector, the name, and we also use ID selector, which is the container. So, and that's it about that. And we have our HTML and that we have everything done. So this is just the beginning, just a little bit introduction about how all of these things work together. So if you have any questions, go ahead.
So basically the difference, and thank you so much for doing this video. I really appreciate it. Um, so the question I have is the difference between span and div. So would it be best to understand that span basically puts things side by side, like keeps it on the same in line,
Inline, yeah.
keeps items in line with each other versus a div, what a div does?
So the div actually is a block component. So it's going to break them. So when I have a div, you see, div could have make it a little bit harder to style just this simple element here, especially when we have the available as app. So I'm going to change this back into div so you see what happened.
Okay.
So for instance, let's make this a div. So immediately what it does is as it breaks out of order. It's like, okay, I'm div, I'm going to take all of the available space at the top, and then it pushed the heart down, which is fine if we are going to use, what I could do here is use flex to position all of these things, because but I just feel like this is just like a simple items that doesn't need using complicated mathematics like flex to do it. So but sometimes if you have like a layout that is really huge that we really want to do something complicated about it, then we can use div. But sometimes span just, especially for things like this that is really simple, and span just works really fine and just reduce our time using complicated ways of styling them. And then you can see everything can stay in line without breaking ranks because we just want all of them in line. The same thing with the user experience and job search. So imagine in this place, we start adding extra divs that we can position both of them on in the flex. It'll just be too much work to do because with span, we can just have the icon and the user experience designer inline, and then we can style them easily. Even we can style this span directly. Like I can call it, like if I add a class here, for instance, and said expert test. Yeah. So expert test and icon, for instance. Then I can pick this span. I can come here and just say, okay, I'll select this and say color, just pick not columns, color to be something like aqua or something. You can see that now. So and then I can select that particular thing by itself and just change this color. So that up and that's very really neat and cool. So the thing is that it's about optimization. So and it comes with practice. So for instance, if we are going to use div in this scenario, then we're going to start using Flex and start using complicated HTML. It's going to be more HTML page for the user to load. You understand? So it's about nuances, understanding where should I use this versus where should I use that. You understand? So, but the difference between them is that span provides you with inline styling, and div actually give you block level styling, and that's why it does. Hope
Okay.
that's help.
Yeah. I have another question, please.
Go ahead.
So where you have his name, Google User Experience Designer, and the job, those four lines,
Yeah,
is it possible to take all of that, I guess, that div section, and let's say you want to have two of those blocks, right? Is it
yeah,
possible to have one div inside one span and then another div inside another span? So basically, you have that block, two of those blocks side by side. Is it possible to put a div inside a span?
yeah. You can do that definitely. So you see, okay. Let's see. Let's do that. So in the user experience, right here, you
Yeah.
mean here, right?
I
And
meant
then
the
like
whole block,
I have
but
a div
whichever
here,
one, yeah.
and then so we're not going to change anything. So we have this div, that is, and then we have even this was actually the job search and icon will actually be added. So I think it depends on the. Sometimes you want to like limit about uh, HTML elements you have that is necessarily relevant to what you're doing. Or sometimes you may want to like do some targeting. Like for instance, the spacing between these are good because the high level space. Or sometimes if I really want to like target this thing, you can do something else. You want to like animate the whole to slide in, then wrapping it to different add an ID here. I said animate icon or animate this. So yeah, you can have that. But the idea of like having div inside of the do you mean for to separate between the user experience and an icon or like it's really
It was more for the I guess for the whole block was what I meant from the name, the 4 lines, the name, the Google, the user experience, and the job search. If I wanted to have 2 of those columns, but I think I understand what you were talking about.
yeah. So okay. So yeah, I think that's okay. So I think what I could do is that you could just like experiment with this code. So and then you can like
Yeah.
share with me what the result is. So I'll share with you the code base already. I already have the code base. I'll share in these things. If you know how to like just get it on GitHub, I'll just get it quickly. Now just push it on quite long. So you could actually like just try to experiment with it and see
Mhm.
uh, stuff you can actually do with it because it's better to just like experiment, you understand, and be able to see how things work in different scenarios. And the thing is that HTML is actually very very forgiving, so it's not going to blow you anything up. So it's really really cool. So this is this. I'm just gonna show.
All right, will do. Thank you.
So I'm just gonna show. So what we can use this fine when you just have like uh, some kind of styles like you basically want. Like sometimes it's hard to explain, but in cases like this, I'll use a span because span allow me to be able to choose. Yeah, you understand? So because it just work directly. Uh I want this to be inline and style just span just make it inline for me. You understand? So that's just the concept. Like span make it work easily. If you don't use span here, let's prepare yourself with it on how and let's just uh, like, okay, yeah, because yeah, right now because we want to we can have the card. Yeah. Yeah, so this is what we're going to have. We're going to have the grades in between the stuff. And then what we want to do most of the time when we have these is wrap between these. So yeah, we are going to wrap these on these. And then we're going to take the icon also and wrap it in from there. And we have this now, so we have 2 elements side of side. So what we want to do now is style these elements with flex. Well, the problem is we are having like 1, 2, 3, 4 D just to style a simple element and just inline by itself. Yes. So that's why this line
Hey, Peter.
Span. Go ahead.
No. Some of us we were having a problem with the audio.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me good now?
Yeah, now it works.
Yeah,
fine.
we are good.
Okay, great. So what I'm trying to explain is that you can see the complexity of what we are going to be doing, having the just for us to be able to style this properly using Flexbox. So, and then I'm going to be adding class to these. Maybe I'll name these job container or stuff like that, and then I'll add Flexbox to that, and then I'm going to use Flex to do all this. So I can say that, okay, I can name this, let's say job container. It's not the best name, but let's try that. Okay, something is breaking somewhere. I can see something is breaking. Okay, so we have the container here. We have this here. Let me just see if I can see what's breaking. We have container. Okay. Good. Okay, I think it's fine. So now I can go to the style and say, so job container, display flex. You can see now display flex and it's now in line. So, but then in reality, it works. Then I have to do the same thing. So you have to like put all of this div, because for Flexbox to work, everything have to be a block level element, and that's way Flexbox work. So it's just not so efficient. Just like doing so many things. Like for beginners, sometimes it could be a way for us to think like putting everything in the div and then doing that. But using span just eliminates all of that. So I'll just use span here. And then it's just no need for all of this, no need for all of this, no need for all of this, no need for all of this. And then save. And then not even a need for this anymore. This works. So because we have a p tag here, so another thing you should note is p tag also is a block level element, so it's going to break the rank. So I'm just going to like take this out, and we just use this, and then the span just take care of everything for us. So that just makes our life much more easier. So those are the two ways you can do it. You can use the normal divs and use the flexbox, or you can use span like this to quickly create the effects you want. Is there any other questions? Yeah. Hello.
Oh, I think that was.
I also have one question.
Go ahead.
So you used class and ID. Can you please explain again why you use ID for some things and why you choose class for some other things?
Okay. So for this, I use it for explanatory purpose. So for sometimes we use, because ID can actually be used for navigation. So imagine we have this section, and then we can have multiple sections like this. Let's say we have another section like this. And then I'll save this. We have three cards now on the page. So I can change these. So if we go to the style, we have on the container, we can change it to flex direction column. Okay, yeah. So it can be. So the reason why it's being cut away is because we set the viewport to be 100. So let me remove the viewport so we can get the height so that everything can just go to normal. Yeah. So and then I'll put some margin top 25 pixel. Okay, so you can see that. So then I'll put another margin top on the each of the card. Let's put margin bottom so that we can have space. 20 pixels. Now you can see we have different cards now. So yeah. So what I want to explain now is that imagine we have let's say all these are different sections of the web page. So it would be a right place to actually use a card. So let's say we have this first section, and then we want to say that ID, and we want this ID to be for design mentors. So that's for this. And then this one is going to be ID for product mentors. So the reason why we are using ID here is because it's unique. You can only have one product mentors. You can only have one design mentors. And then you can only have, let's say, the third one. Where's the third one? Design mentors. Okay, let me just collapse this to you to see that. Yeah, this one. Section here will be ID code mentors. See that? So now each one of these are unique. You can't use product mentors anywhere else again. You can't use design mentors anywhere else again. You can't use code mentors anywhere else again. And another advantage of this is that we can actually use ID to navigate our page. Have you seen one single page application before? So let me just quickly do this demonstration for us so that we can see that. So here I'm going to create a nav. Quickly create a navigation, and then I'm going to create a okay, let me just create a UL and then an li. I'll call this product mentors. So li is the way we create lists. So you can see now, if we save this now, you can see this is a list, product mentors. So we can create another one, li design mentors. And then you can see we can create li code mentors. So one of the things we can do with this is that we can actually link to them. So we can create a tag. A tag is the way we link. I can say href. I'll just put the hash here, code mentors. And then I'll just put this product between it so that it's there. So now this is a link. So if I click on this now, look at what happened. It takes me to that place, product mentors directly. So now if I want to go to code mentors, we can do the same thing. So that's why ID is very unique, because for single page application, you can use it to link from one section to another. So I can say a tag, and then put code mentor. I said href. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake here. It should be product mentors, and then there should be code mentors. See? And then let's refresh. So now we can go to product mentors. You can see that. And then the last one, code mentors. And we can do the same thing for design mentors. Let's say we have a tag, and then this href, not eating, sorry. Href, we have that should be design mentors. Now we have a complete one-page navigation. Code mentors. We are here already. Product mentors here. Design mentors in the middle. You can see that. So, and that's how we could actually navigate. And then if you see the browser itself, it's going to be there. Product mentors. You can see product mentors. Code mentors, you can see code mentors. And that's how single page application works. So if you have like your product portfolio website where you have about me, you have contact, you have portfolios, you have what I have done, you have all of those things, travel, and everything is on the page. IDs can help you to navigate to them. And that's how ID works. Very simple. Yep. Does that explain it? Is that more clearer?
Yeah, it was very helpful. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so is there any other questions? I think questions and more questions is the best way to solidify your knowledge. And the best thing I would say is that just try and replicate everything I've done. You to create your own card, use your own photo, and see how it comes out. Experiment with it, make it better, break it, you understand, and look at other examples and stuff like that to be able to learn. Another thing I will show you today is actually, if you have a web page like this, we have what we call developer tools that you can use. So if I'm on this page, for instance, and I need to see how this was coded, I could just go to inspect on Google Chrome and do inspect like this. So when you do the inspect, the HTML element is going to load. And you can see that this is a span, and with the span that have the text in it and icon in it. And you can see every other thing. You can see we have a footer here. And also for the footer, you can see all of the classes that we use to position the footers and everything. And you can do this for any website to just see what are the things they do under the hood, and how you can change them. Like for instance, this text here, you can see the font, the color. I can even change it to red, and then it's still gonna change. So it's not going to affect what the person have done, but just if I refresh, everything goes away. So, but that's the way you could like experiment and do other things. I can even say font size and make it 10 pixel. You can see it's more smaller now. So you can experiment with it, and you can. The web is an amazing way to learn how to code, and it's so beautiful because it's just so easy and uh, really nice to work with. And we can do this also. Uh, this is a selection, and then you can select specific things and can do different things. So that's fine. Is there any other questions? Anything that needs to be covered?
One more question, please.
Okay, go ahead.
So at the very beginning in the head,
Yep.
is it necessary to, so I'm looking at where you have the HTTP equivalent and the content, that line, what's necessary to include in the head?
Okay. So in the head section, just like I've said before, is where we describe things that the browser are going to use to render our page correctly. So for example, we have here, if you look at it, you can see mentor card as the title when I over it. So when the crawler comes and asking for your page, there's some things that you want to tell them about your website, and that's exactly what this does. So this meta set is telling us about the encoding stuff, and the UTF-8 is what is popular right now for encoding. And also we have this US incompatible, something I can't really understand. I think it's about compatibility with Edge. You know, we have this IE by Microsoft that is, some people are still using it, especially some enterprise system that is difficult to change or upgrade. So this give you that thing to be able to do that. And then we have the viewport about device size. So where we scaled our websites to properly show on a particular device for the first time. But the next thing you want to add is what we call meta, is it description? I think, yeah, I think it's their tags and their description, I think. That should be description. So there's meta description. I think we could Google it. Meta.
Oh, you mean the meta name description thing?
Waiting for it to give me. Yeah. So yeah. So you can use it to describe this description about your website. Maybe I'm typing it wrong.
I think it's under meta name. The
Yeah.
description, I think.
On the name, I'm not sure. So let's see. That's what the name and then description. No, I think this description stay on its own, because for description you can actually add a lot of content there. I just like described what your is an attribute that just tells you about what your website is all about. Like this is a card stuff. So, and then also I think we have meta tags. Tags. So the tags actually can be in like mental and like all of those tags you can add. But also we could actually just check this thing quickly. So if we look at a let's look at a website that is informative. Let's see. Let's say HTML and content is the easiest way. So we shouldn't be afraid to actually Google for these things or sometimes. So you don't have to like remember everything. So on the ETA tag, if we look at W3 school, no, it's giving us the ETA semantic HTML. But what we want to see actually is the HTML. Okay, we have a doc type here. Okay, let's Google HTML. HTML meta tags. Yeah, we have this meta description. I'm sure of that. So let's check that now. Okay, yeah, tags. Okay, yeah, that's it. So you see, that's it. So we have descriptions. So and then we have keywords. Yeah, so not tags. So we have keywords. So name, description, name, keywords, name, author. So I think you're right about that. So if we pick all of this, so we could have it. So it's the same thing. So description is not an attribute on its name on itself. So it's actually like an attribute description. And then the keywords, HTML, CSS, and then we can say card or something. And then the person that creates it, all of us or something. And then we can say, yeah, free HTML, CSS tutorial. So that's it. So we have the name, description, name, keywords, names, author, and yeah, just fine. So sometimes some of these things are just like, because I work with React every day, so in an application we just define this one place and then it's automatically injected for us. So it's very hard for me to actually see this every day. So, but it's a very good knowledge to have, because for accessibility and for the search engine to be able to like crawl your website properly, all of these informations are very key. Thanks for asking this question. I think it's very important for us to know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So I think, yeah, we've spent over 2 hours. I think that's great. Is there any other questions? That's really good. So this will be uploaded after this, and I will share every other resources that we have. You can please give me a review to allow other people to know about this. And also next week, I'm going to be doing the Ask Me Anything sessions. So where you can ask questions about transitioning into tech or coding, or how to get started, tools, any other kind of questions you want to ask, which direction, back end, front end, different technologies and frameworks that are available, and then you can take advantage of it. So thank you very much for coming. If there's no any other questions, I think that would be great. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and see you again some other time. Thank you. Thank you very much.